Of course that wants to change. Okay. We are talking today with Dan Bechtold of Grafton, Illinois. The interviewer is James Smither of the Grand Valley State University Veterans History Project. Okay, Dan, let us start at the beginning. Where and when were you born?
I was born on November 14th, 1951 in Godfrey, Illinois.
Okay. And did you grow up there?
I did.
Okay. And what was your family doing for a living when you were a kid?
Well, my dad was a factory worker. There was 7 of us kids, 6 boys and a girl. And I lived with my parents till I was about 7th grade. My grandparents had a dairy farm, and my grandfather got real sick. I mean, he was in the hospital for 3 months. The oldest boy was in Vietnam. The other boy was married and almost out of state. And there was nobody to milk the cows. So I and my 2 other younger brothers from 7th grade, and they were younger, I was the oldest, we went over and ran the farm, the dairy herd. And of course we had help from my dad and the neighbors and everything. And I stayed on the farm there, I and my 2 other brothers. We were on the farm till I got graduated out of high school, probably 1970. And then, of course, I left, and I got a job, a full-time job, and I worked at that from 70 till I was drafted. I got drafted in December 24th, 1970. Mm-hmm. A quick story. Go back, I'm going to step back one little bit. At that time, it was the lottery system. And I remember, I think it was in August, I'm not sure. But anyway, my mom come home and she said, hey, they had that lottery. Well, you know, I'm 19, I'm out drinking, chasing women, whatever, you know. And I said, oh gosh, Mom, I forgot about that. I said, how'd I do in that lottery? She says, I don't think you did too good. I said, what's my number? She said, 11. I said, well, that's not good. That's not good at all. I said, I'll probably get drafted, you know, when the draft comes out. And so December 24th of 70, I got my notice. And again, my mother, you know, raising 7 kids, she goes, hey, you got some mail here from the President of the United States. What the hell did you do? I said, oh, Mom, I know what that one is. I said, I'll be going in 30 days, which I was.
All right. And where do they send you for basic training?
Fort Leonard Wood.
Okay, so
which wasn't too far away.
Right.
And I stayed in Fort Leonard Wood till, I left for Vietnam in June of 71.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk first about the beginning. When you first arrive at Leonard Wood, what happens to you?
Of course, you go through issuing your clothes and everything. And then, of course, the natural state of basic training. And basic training was, like anything, it was an adjustment. You know, they taught you discipline, they taught you regiment, the whole works. And one of the things I remember most about basic training, which at the time I thought was horrible, they would take these guys that were a little bit, I don't know the proper word I want to use, but they were a little on the weaker side or had issues, and they would drill those guys, and they would actually break them down where they got a medical discharge, or they would go convulsions or whatever. And it was, I thought at the time, was just terrible, terrible. And I would really, under my breath, cuss those DIs and just think, you guys are no good and blah, blah, blah. But once I got overseas and got into a combat zone, I see why they did it. Because you didn't want that guy next to you, under combat conditions. And that's what they did. They thinned the herd on the weak ones. And it sounds terrible, but that's exactly what happened. And as I got over there, I understood what happened. But at the time, I thought that was the worst thing they could do. So.
Okay. Now, did some of those people adjust and get stronger, especially if it was sort of physically not strong enough?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I knew one that was from my area got a medical discharge. Not, hopefully I don't bore you with this little story. We were training to tear a rifle down and put it back together. And they had you out on a table, and we tore these rifles down, and then we had to put them back. And poor old Harry, he tore his down, but when he put it back together, he had a couple pieces left over. Oh my God. And they come in, and the old Sergeant Carter in the Marines, they were that close to his ear yelling. And poor old Harry went into convulsions, and which was sad. But Harry, they took him out, and he got a medical discharge. But I got to know Harry because he was from Wood River, Illinois, which is, from a local. And I've known Harry for 50 years, and he's done very well in life, and he's adjusted, and it was just, that wasn't his cup of tea.
Right.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so now, did you get sort of marching drill, rifle training?
Oh yeah. Yeah, couple quick stories I remember the best. One was when we first got into marching in columns, and they would have you, column left, column right. Well, I was on the end, and it goes column left. If the whole column turns left, I turn right. Oh my God. I carried a rock in my hand that day for 6 hours. My right arm was longer than my left arm, but I never did forget my left and right. So, and then another time we would walk out to the rifle range, and it was, a good 5-mile walk. It was quite a ways. And at this time, it was late February down at Fort Leonard Wood. And we were practicing shooting a rifle, and we were hitting silhouettes out pretty far, and where I was assigned to, there was a little, after so many guys, there was a little groove there, and there was a little skim of ice and a little puddle of water, and it wasn't 1/4 inch deep, but there was a little skim of ice over it. And so I'm trying to get in a prone position, but I'm leaning up on my knees a little bit so I wouldn't get wet. And this DI comes behind me and takes his foot into my back, shoves me down in that ice and holds it and says, "Now shoot." I said, "Oh God," it was terrible. Of course I was wet, cold the rest of the day, but that was part of basic, and it made you a better, as cruel as it sounds, it made you adjust to, you had to do adjustments. So.
Okay. Now, having spent a lot of time on a farm and things like that, you would have been probably in pretty good shape physically?
I was probably better shape than the average person there, physically, that's for sure.
And had you ever done any hunting or shooting before?
Oh yeah, I did a lot of, when we were kids, we did a lot of squirrel hunting, rabbit, quail, and we weren't bad shots at all. So.
Okay. So a lot of the basic things they want to teach you are things that you could adapt to.
Yeah, because growing up there in my teenage years on the farm, the farm being a dairy farm, you milk cows twice a day, 365 days a year, except leap year, then you did it 366. But we would always get a half a day Sunday off. And Sunday afternoons, after we cleaned the barn out and everything, we got to do whatever we wanted. And of course we would always go hunting, whether it be rabbit, squirrel, whatever, and quail. And we were always hunting. So, and it was the old story on farm life too. If you killed it, you cleaned it. Didn't matter. Hopefully I don't get off on this, but I remember dove season come in, and I and my 2 other brothers, boy, we loved the dove hunt. So we were out there, we killed 126 doves. And I don't know if there was a limit back then, I don't remember. But anyway, we had to clean every one of them things. I'll never do that again. Kill 1 or 2, that's enough for me. So.
Okay, all right. So how long was basic?
8 weeks.
Okay. And now, then what did you do for your advanced training?
Truck driver. They assigned me as a truck driver.
Okay.
Heavy equipment, I did some heavy equipment. but truck driving and heavy equipment, and I stayed there at Fort Leonard Wood. And I went to, I guess you call it truck driving school and basic heavy equipment. And what was really odd, on my 4th week of, they called it AIT, Advanced Training or Infantry Training, whatever. My 4th week, I already had my orders for Vietnam. Of course, I didn't tell my parents, or I didn't tell nobody, till the last day, because I didn't want them to get excited. Of course, they did, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, did you get a leave home before you went
Oh,
overseas?
yeah. I got, I don't remember, probably 3 weeks, 2 weeks, somewhere in that neighborhood I got before I left,
Okay.
So,
And how did you spend that time?
enjoying every minute of it. Had a good time.
Okay. Now, did you have any family or relatives who were over in Vietnam or had been there?
An uncle, that uncle that we took our place, and actually he was with the 1st Cav down out of Bien Hoa, and he had been injured twice. He had 2 Purple Hearts. So, and then of course my age, high school buddies of mine, there were several of those over, and we lost a couple of them too. So.
All right. Now, how did they get you to Vietnam?
Airplane. I left out of Tacoma, Washington, and then we flew. I want to say we flew into Alaska, and then we flew to Okinawa, and then we flew. It was like a 23 hours, but it was broken up.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. When they fly out of the Seattle area, they go to Alaska, and then down from there.
Yeah.
On that. Okay. And where did you land in Vietnam?
Cam Ranh Bay.
Okay.
And I can remember this vividly. It's Cam Ranh Bay. It's about 10:30 at night. We're in an air-conditioned plane, and they open that door. And we step. I step out, and it's like 90 degrees. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I got a year of this. This is going to be miserable. And then we got in, and they give you a little roll. It was a mattress. It was no bigger than that. It was probably an inch thick. And that's what we slept on. But it was full of sand. Oh, it was terrible. So you got up and you beat the hell out of it. And but you were so tired, you slept anyway. And hot and miserable. And I was in Cam Ranh Bay for about 6-7 days before we were assigned to where we were supposed to go. So,
And what did they do with you for that time?
mostly processing. I'd stand in line. We stand in line a lot. So. I forgot about that.
Was that your phone?
That's my phone. You want me to get rid of it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just shut it off. Let me get rid of it. I forgot.
Okay. All right. So we're talking. You're at Cam Ranh Bay, and you're just kind of waiting for something to happen.
Yeah, where we're supposed to be assigned to.
Okay. Now, while you were there, was there any activity around the base? Were there any?
Every once in a while, there would sirens would go off, and there would be some mortars or rockets coming, not into the compound or anything, but you could see the firefights over off of a hill, and let you know that you weren't in your backyard.
Right. So, okay. So you knew that you were assigned to the 1st Cavalry Division? Or,
No, that's when I was still with the engineers.
Engineers, okay. But you had orders. Now, did you have orders for a unit, or were you waiting to find out what unit?
Waiting to find out what unit and where I was going.
Okay. So what unit do you go to?
I go to the 577th, and it was a engineer unit, and they were building a road through a place called Goodview Mountain, and we were laying asphalt, and this road was going up the mountain, and if I remember right, the mountain was 4,000 feet elevation, and the road was a switchback all the way up, and at the top there was a compound up there of 750 men, and that's where I got stationed. So, and when I got there, my MOS was to drive a truck or heavy equipment. I wind up at the asphalt plant, making asphalt. Horrible job.
Now, Did they have to bring in all of the ingredients from somewhere else?
Oh no, there was a quarry there.
Okay.
And we had heavy equipment, had payloaders, bulldozers, had an asphalt plant, and we made asphalt there, and they trucked it down the mountain doing the road, building the road.
Okay. And what area or what part of South Vietnam was this?
It was in the Central Highlands. And the people that we worked with, we had a lot of the locals work for us, and they were mountain yards.
Mm-hmm.
And the mountain yards worked with us hand in hand. And they were great little workers. They were fantastic people. So, yeah, they were good.
Now, was the terrain around there, was it hills and jungle, or?
Yes, very mountainous, you know. Yeah, jungle type. You know, you didn't go out and take a stroll. So, yeah, no.
And can you describe the compound itself? What does that look like?
Well, we had bunkers lined up, and there would be, let's say 20 bunkers. And there was, in my particular bunker, there was 21 of us slept in it. And what I remember the most about it, it was a good, you know, we could take a mortar, or, you know, the roof was 4 foot thick and the walls, and when you went into the bunker, you went down below ground. And there was 21 of us in our bunker. And we became very close, very tight-knit group. And some of them went out on the road, running the asphalt machine. Some ran the bulldozer. Everybody had their job. One ran the oil trucks, and you know, everybody had their jobs they were assigned to. And what I remember, we always got up early in the morning. Oh my gosh, it was, you know, around 5 o'clock in the morning, and we'd get up and start our day. So.
Okay. And what would a typical day be like?
Oh, we would go up till about 6 o'clock. And then we'd come back, take a shower. We did have a shower. It was a big vat full of water, and you had a hose coming down, and you had a valve. And you'd open that valve, and the water would run down on you, which was fantastic.
Okay. And I take it the air was warm enough that...
Oh, yeah. But we were blessed, because at night, being up in the mountains, it'd get down to 70 degrees. And I mean, it was just fantastic sleeping. So.
Yeah, in the bunker, did you have rats, bugs, snakes, anything like that?
We had rats and bugs. You know, that was snakes. The only snake we had, quick story. One of the guys out on the road caught a boa constrictor. And then, you know, it was about 6 foot long. You know how big they get. Well, he brought it in, and it's gonna be our mascot. Keep it as a pet. Oh, no. No, we don't want to do that. So anyway, and I do have pictures of that boa. We would take pictures, you know, cruel as it sounds. We'd let it wrap around our neck, and we'd hold the tails, and then we'd hold it while somebody took your picture with this damn boa constrictor. And so the idea was they wanted to keep it as a pet. Well, we had the big vote. We had a big ballot. You know, do we keep it, or do we skin it, put the skin up on the bunker? Well, it come to where the skin was on the bunker, which really made me feel better. I didn't want to wake up with a damn boa in my bunk. So, anyway.
All right. Now, when the men went out to work on the roads, were there people guarding them?
Oh, yeah. We had what they called gunships, gun trucks. And it would be a deuce, 5-ton dump or a deuce and a half, steel plated all the way around it, 50 caliber machine gun in the center. And then on each corner on the rear had two 60 caliber machine guns.
M60, so 30 caliber,
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then you had a couple guys with regular rifles and the little M79ers, the little grenade launchers. And we had several of those little gun trucks.
Okay. But that was all part of the Engineer Battalion?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you didn't have infantry there with you?
No, and supposedly now, our infantry was the ARVNs out around us. That didn't make you feel too safe. But anyway, we had ARVNs protected.
Okay. And did you see much of the ARVNs?
No, we did not. And where we were blessed, and we got blessed, we had Chinese. We had the Chinese pulling guard duty 24/7. So our job was to get that road done. And so we didn't have to pull guard duty. And that was a blessing.
Okay. Chinese.
Yeah, we had,
Well, there are ethnic Chinese who live in Vietnam.
yeah,
And they got recruited often as basically mercenaries. Did you have them? Because there were also Koreans.
yeah. We had Koreans too, but not there.
Okay.
Koreans, the only time I seen a bunch of Koreans was down in Cam Bay. But these were Chinese, and they were pulling guard duty 24/7. And that was a relief for us because we got to spend all our time building that road
Right.
because they wanted that road finished.
Okay. Now, did the base itself get hit by mortars or anything?
Periodically. And when I use the word periodically, I was there probably 4 months and maybe twice,
Okay.
that I remember that it got hit. So
And did the road crews get harassed at all? Or?
a little bit, not as much as you think because we did have those Arvins around us, and we had the gun trucks.
Yeah.
So that really had some firepower. And at dark, you weren't out there. Come when it started to get dark, everybody's back in the compound.
Yeah. Did you have some cleared ground around the compound?
Oh yeah. And right down from our compound was a little village called Danzun. And it wasn't very big, but what I remember was when you go through that little village, they'd have little markets set up, all their little vegetables and meats and whatever. But right behind their stands and that was an open sewer. And the stink, oh my God, it was nasty. Oh my God.
All right. Now, are there particular things that happened while you were with that unit that kind of stand out in your memory that you haven't brought up yet?
Yeah, one of the really bad things. We had a great sergeant. We called him Sergeant Rock because all he did was play with weights, and he's built like a Greek god. He was from Tennessee. He was a great guy, and he was kind of relaxed on. We could our uniforms. We just no shirt. Some guys would let their hair go a little longer than it should. Rough beards maybe, and all he would tell you too is, I don't care what the hell you look like, get the job done. Everybody put in 100%, and everybody did because he let us. We had cut off shorts and all that stuff because our job was to build the roads. And his time was up, and he left, and they brought in another guy. God, he was a badass. He was terrible. He thought he was still back in the world. He wasn't used to combat conditions. And I don't think he was there 10 days. Somebody threw a grenade in on his bunker, which was awful. I mean, you hear about it, and it actually happened in our outfit, our compound. And I and another little guy, we were coming back from the PX that evening. We'd went over and bought a case of beer. And beer only come up so often. They'd bring a pallet, 110 cases, and boy, you scrambled to get that. It didn't last but a day. But anyway, we were getting a case of beer and we were heading back when this grenade went off. And we weren't, I don't know, we were quite a ways, maybe 100 yards, maybe a little, not quite. But anyway, we heard the grenade go off, the flash and that. And of course we thought it was incoming. So, we ran to the closest bunker and ran in. Well, come to find out, somebody threw a grenade in on this guy. And whether he lived or died, I don't know. They medevaced him out and never heard or seen again. But that was awful. I mean, even though the guy was a real son of a gun, wounding, killing one of our own was terrible.
Yeah.
And, it happened. It happened in our outfit. So, and I remember that very vividly.
Okay. Now, did a replacement come in before you left? Okay.
Yeah.
And how did he behave?
Very nice. I should say he was He was a good guy. So, and again, every day, everybody did their job and the whole works. And when they did that, I'll tell you quick, we had what they call a shakedown. And they come through and took everything out of your footlocker. Your bunkers got turned inside out. And they come out there and they had a pile of marijuana about that high. And they lined everybody up and they set it afire. And I remember seeing some of the guys were crying. They had tears running, because they were smoking that stuff all the time. One of the things that I remember vividly too, in our compound, you had 3 classifications of guys. And one was juicer, which meant you drank all the time, or you drank. Mm-hmm. Potheads, they smoked pot all the time. And your mainliners. And the mainliners shot, took heroin, whatever. And that stuff was easy to buy as buying a pack of cigarettes. You go down to these villages, you could buy anything you wanted. And anyway, when they had all this stuff they confiscated, that was all contraband. And but I remember specifically that pile of marijuana, and they burn it. Those guys were crying. So
yeah. Now with the heroin and so forth, I mean, did you have guys that?
Oh, they were worthless.
Yeah.
They were in a different area, and we didn't count them as they couldn't do nothing. And they eventually. I was there maybe a couple of months, maybe a little longer, and they come in. Nixon had come out with the urine test. Mm-hmm. Anyway, they had a urine test. Surprise. And that whole group was gone. They took them to dry out clinics down in Cameron Bay, mm-hmm. And we never seen them again.
Right.
So.
Yeah, because that's something that can really disrupt the functioning of the
Oh,
unit.
yeah. I mean, we didn't count on those guys to do anything because they were worthless. I mean, it's awful to say. They get hooked on that stuff, and they were worthless.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and another kind of stereotype of Vietnam, especially on their areas or bases, is racial tension. Is there any of that?
No, I can honestly say we had 3 black guys in our outfit, and they were as good as gold. And we had 3 Mexicans that were 2 of the Mexicans. We always teased them. They were from Chicago, and the both of them. They said, "Yeah, what we remember was standing in front of the judge, boys, jail or army." We took army, but those guys. My life could depend on those guys. They became, what do you want to use the word, good citizens, or it made men out of them and straightened them up in our area. And they were just as good as gold. They would do anything for you. They were, and which my firm belief, I don't want to get off on this, but all these guys that go in front of a judge for whatever, put them in the military. Straighten them up. Don't smack their hands and send them back out on the street. That's crazy. Put them in the military and straighten them up, either make or break them. So, but that's a horse of a different color.
Yes, that's no longer an option. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're there with that battalion about 4 months.
Yeah.
Now, then basically what happens at that point?
We finished the road.
Okay.
We got the road completed, and we're pulling out. They're abandoning the compound. They left the compound. And turned it over to the Arvins, I guess. Can I honestly say, I'm sure that's what happened. But to be confirmative, no. But surely the Arvins took it over, because it was a pretty good sized compound. So anyway, we went back down to Cameron Bay. And then we were reassigned. And that's when I got reassigned to 1st Cav down in Bien Hoa. And when I went down, there was only 13 of us that went to 1st Cav down there. And what they needed was truck drivers to haul supplies out to fire bases and to haul dozers out to your clear landings and stuff like that.
All right. Now, to back up a little bit, when did you actually arrive in Vietnam?
June 16th of 71.
Okay. And so so now we're getting kind of into the fall,
Yeah.
later part of the year, but still 71 when you go over enjoying the cab. And then now once you're there at Bien Hoa, what's your job?
Driving a truck.
Okay.
I drove two different types, a 10-ton lowboy and a 25-ton lowboy. And that's what I did, was drive a truck. And we would go out on haul supplies out to fire bases, whether it be rations, food, whatever, or 155s, 105s, ammunition. And we would haul all this supplies out to fire bases. And I don't remember how many miles we would go. It was, I want to say 50, I could be wrong, but we would encompass all these fire bases around us, out a ways. And we would drop, and a lot of times we'd stay overnight at the fire bases, because we never traveled at night. And we would leave in the mornings. We got sniped a few times, hit a mine, no casualties that I remember, but it kept you alert. And when you were driving, you always had a guy riding with you, and he always had a little M79, the little grenade launcher. It looked like a little sawed-off shotgun. And you always had a buddy with you with one of those, and of course you both had your M16s.
Okay. Now, would you drive in convoys or just by yourself?
Oh yeah, no, convoys all the time, yeah. And you had a gun truck up front, gun truck in the middle, gun truck in the end, and supposedly we had ARVNs all around us too, so,
All right. Now, did you go in all directions outside of Saigon?
We did, Bien Hoa, and we did. We would go every which way. Wherever there was a fire base that needed supplies within our region, that's where we went. So.
All right. So which side of Saigon is Bien Hoa on?
Bien Hoa is to the north of it.
Okay. All right. So you just radiate out from around.
From Saigon, then you had Long Binh, and then Bien Hoa. And Bien Hoa was home of the first cab, which was airmobile or helicopters.
Right.
And I want to say they had like 400 helicopters. They had a lot of helicopters. That's what it was, the airmobile, first cab airmobile. So.
Okay. Now, when you get into early '72, North Vietnamese launched their Easter offensive. Were you still there?
I just left. I left.
You missed it.
Yeah, I missed it. April the 11th is when I flew out of there. So.
Okay. So, now what was life on the base at Bien Hoa like?
A little better. It was better than up in the mountains, because we had, of course, we, never had flush toilets. We always had the latrine barrels, but we did have a shower, regular shower. It wasn't a big tub with a hose hanging down, and that was really a gift. We had electric too. Yeah, there was electric. We didn't have electric on the other one. I always said, no electric, no running water, and no flush toilets. Whew, those were gifts. Now, if you go without those for a year, you'll appreciate them, that's for sure. But we did have some electric, not much, and we had regular showers, and then we had our regular latrines. So.
Yeah, and they would have had, was there a PX or anything on that base? Or?
Yes, it was a regular PX that, like if you wanted a case of beer, you could get it, We're up in the mountains, they brought it in, you got one case, that's over, And you had to wait for the next month, so, yeah, it was pretty nice.
Okay. And did they have Vietnamese working on the base?
They did, yes, we had Vietnamese.
And what were they doing?
Usually laundry, cleanup, stuff like that. So all our laundry was done by Vietnamese.
And did you have any concerns about them being Viet Cong or anything like that?
No, not really. I don't know. You look back on it now and you think, well, I don't know. But at the time, you didn't give it any thought. Figured they got on base, they were there, and they did jobs nobody wanted to do. That's the sad part, but they did.
Yeah. All right. Now, did you go off base at all except when driving the truck?
No, only when we were driving trucks.
Okay. Now, when you're moving along the roads, are there going to be civilians along there?
We drove through villages, and a lot of times those roads were little dirt roads, and I don't know if we ever got above 20 mile an hour. I don't know. You know, the potholes and the roads were just, you can't imagine. Now, I remember one time I took a load of helicopter blades down to Saigon, and I had to go down through Saigon, and the Lombrettas and the little scooters were just everybody crisscrossing, going there. And I looked back in my mirror, I bet I had 50 Vietnamese riding my truck. Yeah, I mean, they were just fall. And I told my buddy, I said, look back there. He looked, he says, God, he says, don't run over one. He says, we'll be filling out paperwork for a week. I said, okay. And of course, we could go fast. Hell, I bet we weren't going 5 mile an hour. You know, just above a foot pace, and that was it. And we took this load of helicopter blades down and dumped them all. So, but oh my God, it was crazy. I mean,
and when you were driving through the countryside, were there people there trying to sell you stuff?
Oh, all the time. And that's where those guys made the mistake of stopping, getting drugs and all that stuff. You go through these little villages, and some say, drive a little slower, I got to stop and get something here. They never tell you what they were going to get, but you knew. And they would make deals and jump back in the truck and away they'd go. So, and you know what's sad? And of course I'm in 71, where 72, and you know, you could almost see the handwriting on the wall where they were gonna, it was no longer a seek and search mission, just maintain. Mm-hmm. And the drugs were just as easy to buy as a pack of cigarettes. And unfortunately, some of the guys got on that stuff and put them under, you know. Mm-hmm. And lucky for my outfit, we were all juicers. Now we drank, and we drank a lot, but that's what we did. So, you know.
All right. Now, were there prostitutes and things as well?
Yes. So.
Plenty of trouble you could get into.
Oh yeah, if you were looking for trouble, you could find it real easy.
All right. Now, how much communication did you have with people back home?
Quite a bit. I mean, I wrote letters, I can't say every day. Matter of fact, I got in trouble when I was in the mountains. I went 3 weeks without riding home. Oh my God. I got a call from the captain. He called me in and said, what the hell are you doing? He says, you haven't ridden home, have you? And I said, well, I guess I haven't. And he made me sit there and write a letter right there in front of me. And then I got back in the habit of writing. You get so busy, and I don't want to use the word busy, as you just focused on doing your job, and every day is kind of like a ho-hum. You lose track of time. And it's just a repetition, and as I look back on it, that was stupid of me. But, you know, I didn't do it. And so then I got, for every 3 or 4 days, I'd at least write a letter for back home. So, yeah.
All right. And so how long did you spend at Bien Hoa?
From probably October till April.
Okay, so about 6 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you wind up, now, while you're there, are there other particular things that kind of stand out in your memory from staying in Bien Hoa?
Just always going on the road, and we really enjoyed it better than staying back because when you stayed back at the barracks, it was more boredom, you know. And one of the things I think were the Vietnamese, or North Vietnamese, and you know, you could go 3 weeks, nothing. I mean, no nothing. And then one night, man, the mortars and rockets were coming in, and you were on your toes then. But I think what they did was they let you get a little sloppy, laxed, and then all hell would break loose. And, you know, for 3 or 4 weeks, it was just boredom, you know. And that's what got a lot of guys in trouble, too. One of the things when we were back in the first cab, we played a lot of cards in the evenings. when we weren't on the roads, or we played cards during the day. So, kept us busy.
All right. Now, you didn't stay a full year in Vietnam.
No, 10 months, because they were given early outs then. And I got called in, and they were cutting back. They were depleting the amount of GIs that were in. And I got called in and said, if you want to give up some of your school benefits, we will give you an early out. I said, where do I sign? So that's how I got, I was scheduled to come back to Camp Hood, Texas. That's where the first cav is. And I still had 6 more months to finish my 2-year duties. And I still had 2 months in country. And then I got out of country 2 months early.
Okay. And then did they discharge you at that point?
Yeah.
Okay, so you didn't have to go to Texas.
No. We come into Oakland, California, and we spent 3 days there processing out, and then I was out of the service.
All right. Now, did you fly into, and then did you fly home from there, or?
I flew out of, I flew into Lambert. And I remember we stopped somewhere, and we were going to get a beer. And I wasn't 21 yet. I wasn't going to be 21 till November. And the little gal says, you're not 21. I said, well, no. Yeah, but I said, we've been drinking. Doesn't matter. You're back in the States. I said, all right. So we couldn't get a beer. So.
Okay. Now, were you going home in uniform or were you in civilian clothes?
Uniform.
Okay.
But let me tell you a quick story. This was terrible, 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 terrible. There was guys that would take their uniforms off in the restroom and put them in the trash can so they wouldn't get spit on. That was awful. But I wore my uniform. Most of the guys I was with did. All of them did, really.
And did you have any trouble in the airports?
No, we didn't. Thank God, because I don't know what we would have done. It wouldn't have been pretty. It was terrible. You talk about a greeting coming home. It wasn't pretty. But anyway.
That happens. Okay. So now you get home. What do you do?
Of course, I love being home and just, to be home and not look over your shoulder or look around. And all I wanted to do was get my job back and work, just go back to normal.
Okay. And what kind of job were you going back to?
I was working for a beverage company delivering beverages to taverns, grocery stores, C-stores, all that kind of stuff. So, and all I wanted to do was get back to my job.
And did you have any trouble readjusting to civilian life?
Not really. I was just thankful to be home, just very thankful. And I was one of the lucky ones. I got home, adjusted well, I think, but no, I did. And I was so blessed. So I was one of the lucky ones. So.
All right. And then have you gotten involved with any veterans organizations or things like that?
No, I didn't. And I really never got into, when I worked for the beverage company, I had insurance. And I worked there 29 years, and then I left the beverage company. Then I didn't have insurance. So somebody brought it up, so you're a veteran, go to the VA, you'll get medical. And that was in 01, somewhere around there, 01. I went over and signed up in the veterans, then I've been with the Veterans VA Medical ever since. So.
All right. And what do you do these days? Because you're still working.
I'm still working. I have a wood shop, and I have a couple sawmills, and I buy logs from tree trimmers, and they're yard trees because the production mills won't buy a yard tree. And when we saw these hardwoods up, walnut, cherry, oak, whatever, and then we have our kilns, we dry it, and then we sell it. And I have some really good woodworkers make tables and chairs and whatever. So.
All right. Now, we are in Grafton, Illinois, and Grafton at this point is the home of an effort to build the National Memorial of Military Ascent, a where they're going to have life-size bronze sculptures of Army Rangers scaling the cliffs.
At Port de Hoc, yeah.
That resemble, commemorate what happened at Pointe du Hoc in Normandy on D-Day. Now, are you involved with that group?
I am on the board.
Okay.
And I am involved in it, and very much so, and thankful that I am. So I want to see this go through. This would be, it'll be here, for generations. So yes, I've gotten involved in this.
Okay.
So
And what are you able to do for them?
right now, between trying to get donations put up, giving donations, making sure it stays forward and they stay focused on it, that it continues to get people's attention and donate.
And then to look back on your time in the service, what do you think you took out of it, or what did you learn from it?
Oh, very much so. Became a man. I grew up. Let's put it that way. I always tell this story, and I tell it to my kids and everybody. When I was 19, my dad was the dumbest man I ever met. He's dumber now. He didn't know nothing. I got drafted, went to Vietnam, come back. I thought Pop went to college while I was gone. So there's a lot of truth to that.
All right.
But yeah, I thought he went to college.
All right. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to share the story with me.
Well, thank you. Thank you.